So you're planning to make the move to Airdrie, Alberta, or maybe you already live here and you're trying to decide whether you should buy or rent a home to live in. Well, in this video, we're going to try and lay out some facts to better help you make your decision. But for me personally, buying has been the better choice, so that's the route that I've opted to go. But I do understand that there are pros and cons to buying, just like there are pros and cons to renting, and the answer to this decision is very much dependent on your specific situation and goals. So we're going to lay out some of the facts here to hopefully help you make that decision that's best for you, and make sure you stick around for the whole video, as we're not only going to go over the month-to-month expenses and investment potential of both scenarios, but also the lifestyle differences as well. But before we get into that, please go down and hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. It helps out the channel a ton and I'd really appreciate it. So thank you, and let's get into it. Okay, so as a baseline to this question, we're going to assume that whoever's considering both of these options has the ability to buy if they choose. And knowing that many first-time buyers opt to put the minimum 5% down, we're going to assume that we're working with a 5% down payment. And the next variable here will be the type of home that you're looking at, which could also change the outcome of your decision. For this example, we're going to use the simple number of a $500,000 home, which right now in Airdrie can get you a smaller 3 to 4 bedroom detached home, likely built in the late 1900s or early 2000s, so about 20 to 40 years old, say, or a freehold duplex or townhouse that's going to be slightly newer than that. So let's look at the month-to-month expenses of both options first. Now, the monthly cost of the rental is pretty easy to calculate, as you just have your rent and your utilities. So the rent on a similar home to the one I just described, 3 to 4 bedrooms on a smaller detached home from the late 1900s or early 2000s, right now it could be anywhere from $2,800 to $3,500 a month, give or take. Now let's say $3,000, kind of in the middle, but on the lower end, as that's going to be more the smaller type home that you're going to find in that $500,000 range. So your rent is $3,000 a month. Water and sewer from the city is going to be about $100 to $150 per month, and your gas and electrical, let's say, average around $300 per month throughout the year. And lastly, we want to make sure to add in our contents insurance as well, which we'll say is around $50 or so per month. So all in, each month you'd be right around $3,500 per month for your monthly expenses for renting. So now let's look at the monthly expenses of buying and owning a home. And for this, we're going to assume that $500,000 purchase price and your 5% down payment. And with current rates, we'll assume a 5.25% mortgage interest rate. Some are going to be lower than this, some will be higher, but this is a fairly realistic rate to land at right now. And this is also going to be based on a 25-year amortization on the mortgage. So assuming all those numbers, your monthly mortgage payment right now is going to be about $2,950 per month, and we'll need to add the other expenses to that number. So your gas and electrical around $300 per month, your insurance about $150 per month, city water and sewer say $150 per month as well, and your property taxes would be around $280 per month as well. And since you own the home now, we'll also need to add a monthly maintenance budget. So the rule of thumb typically for owning a home is to budget about 1% of the home's value for maintenance each year, which on this example home would mean about $400 per month. Now this doesn't mean you're going to be spending exactly $400 a month on maintenance, but following this rule will make sure you have the savings that you need when big maintenance comes up, such as needing to replace a roof or some windows or things like that. So we're going to add this $400 to our monthly expenses for owning a home as well. So all added up, including that monthly maintenance budget, the monthly expenses for owning that home come to $4,230. So looking at the two side by side, it looks like it makes more sense to rent than buy. $3,500 per month compared to $4,200 per month, but we still have a couple different perspectives to look at on this. Next up, we're going to look at the investment financials of both scenarios. Now let's start again with renting, and just as we did before, we're going to assume that whoever is asking themselves this question of renting versus buying has the down payment money ready. So for the person that opted to go the rental route, now you have that $25,000 in your bank ready to invest. So if you put that money, say, into the S&P, which over the last 30 years has had an average return of about 7.5% per year, then in 25 years, using 7.5% as the average interest, then that $25,000 could turn into $152,000, a gain of about $127,000 over that time. Now looking at the buying route, which is a bit more complicated than the rental route in terms of investment, we need to look at the appreciation of that home over time as well as the mortgage pay down. Now we calculated the maintenance into the monthly expenses, so we don't need to include that here. So starting first with the potential appreciation of the home, real estate over the last 40 years in Canada has had an average appreciation of 2% per year on average. Now that's lower than the average on the S&P, but keep in mind that we're talking about 2% on the $500,000 value of the home compared to 7.5% on the $25,000 investment. So after 25 years, and when that mortgage is now paid off, that home is now worth $820,000, which is a gain of $320,000 over the initial value when you bought the home. Not bad for a $25,000 investment 25 years ago. But when you own, the appreciation isn't the only investment potential we need to look at. It's also the mortgage paydown, which I like to think of as kind of a forced savings account when you own a home. See, if we look back at those monthly expenses, $3,500 for renting, $4,200 for owning, what we didn't discuss yet is how much of that mortgage payment goes directly to the principal on the mortgage, meaning that it pays down your mortgage so that you owe less and therefore have more equity in the home. Now at a 5.25% mortgage interest rate, about $800 from each mortgage payment is going directly to pay down that mortgage, and with every payment you make, a little bit more goes towards the principal and a little bit less towards the interest. For example, by the end of year one, about $840 will be going towards the principal each month, and by year 5, about $1,000 of that payment will be going towards the principal. Moving towards year 10, now about $1,300 per month of that payment is going to the principal, and by the last few payments at the end of your 25 years, nearly your entire mortgage payment will be going towards paying that mortgage down. So factoring both your appreciation and your mortgage pay down at the end of 25 years, you could own an $820,000 asset outright with no mortgage on it. Now, just to make sure we're keeping this as fair as possible, since we know that the owner is paying out of pocket $700 per month for owning their home, let's say the renter adds $700 every month to their S&P investment. In this case, at the end of the 25 years, that renter now has a portfolio that's worth $583,000. So in a direct comparison, at the end of that 25 years, if you rented, you have an investment worth $583,000, but if you owned a house, you could have an investment worth $820,000 that you own free and clear. And that's with both having paid the same amount out of pocket each month for expenses and investments. Now keep in mind that this is simply an example, and your situation and your numbers might differ a lot from this answer, but in this scenario, buying is absolutely the better investment option over the long term. And now the last thing we need to discuss, and this may be the one thing that has the biggest weight on your decision, and that's the lifestyle differences of renting versus buying. More than simply your out-of-pocket expenses or your long-term wealth, the lifestyle that you're trying to achieve can be hugely affected by your decision to rent or to buy. So we're going to quickly run through some of the pros and cons of both. And starting with renting, having no long-term commitment could be a big pro to some people. If you want to move around a lot or you aren't quite sure where you'd like to settle down, then renting can definitely give you the flexibility you need at this stage in your life. And another pro to renting would be to not have to worry about ongoing maintenance of the property. You don't have to budget for this, as your landlord is responsible for the ongoing maintenance of the home. Now, as for cons for renting, we do have a few of them. The lack of permanence or security is a big one for some people. If you want to be secure in your home and not have to worry about moving for many years, then renting can be difficult, because the landlord could decide that they want a different tenant in there, or that they want to sell the home, and then you need to find a new home to rent. Another con for you pet owners is that it can be very difficult to find a rental that'll allow pets, especially big dogs. So owning a home means that you're free to have any animals you like. And now for the pros and cons of buying a home. The biggest pro for buying is the stability you'll have. If you own your home, you know that you can stay there as long as you like, and you can make any changes you want to your home and decorate as you see fit to really make your house a home for many years to come. And of course, another pro that we already discovered is that with every payment, you're paying down your mortgage and building your equity, which acts like a forced savings account. So when you go to make that upgrade or your next move, you now have a pretty good amount of equity in that home to use for your next investments. Now, as for the cons of owning your home as compared to renting, one would be that it becomes much harder and more costly to move. If you move when you're renting, it doesn't cost you much at all. It's more just the time involved in actually making the move. If you want to make that move once you own a home, you're going to need to take the time to prepare your home to sell, go through the sale process, wait for possession day, and all of this can take many months to finally get into your new home. And on top of that, you'll have expenses like realtor fees, lawyer fees, and things like that that can all make moving a little less appealing when you own that home. And another con of owning a home would be the added responsibilities that you have for staying on top of things like the maintenance of the home and paying the additional bills that you'll have each month. Now, ultimately, your decision to rent or buy is a very personal one and can have a lot of factors contributing to your decision, but there are some standard scenarios where renting or buying will be the better option. Now, if you're someone who wants to move around a lot, or you aren't exactly sure where you want to live yet, or you're not ready for the added responsibilities of owning a home, then renting could definitely be the better option for you. But if you'd like to have more security in your living situation while adding to your long-term wealth, then buying is going to be the better option for you. Now, of course, it's not always as cut and dry as that. So if you'd like to have a conversation about your specific situation and what might be the best option, please reach out to me anytime. I'd be more than happy to have a chat about your specific situation. Well, that about does it for our comparison of renting versus buying. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you have any questions or if you want to debate any of the information in this video, please post in the comments below. My name is Brad Walker, your local Airdrie, Alberta realtor, and we'll see you in the next video.